Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We are back on the Jet Hanger F86 project. Actually the last video got, well, for my channel, got quite a few views compared to my standard, build videos or whatever. So that's great. This is the kind of thing that not many people are doing these days, so I guess I can, in fact, most people that are new to the hobby have never even heard of this. So, and then the old guys remember it for sure. But anyways, welcome back. We are back on the power system of the Sabre. Just about there. So you can see compared to last time, I have opened up this hole. So now I'll be able to reach in, get to the throttle if I need to, get to the fuel line if I need to, tighten the motor if I need to, tighten the tuned pipe if I need to. So basically what I'm going to do now is, you can see here that I have mostly cut through this one layer of glass piece here, and I've smoothed out the inside. It's not pretty from the outside, which is unfortunate, but like I said, maybe I'll make another one off of this part at some point. But anyways, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use this piece to create a flange. So you can see I've scuffed the surface, both sides, everything's scuffed. I'm going to super glue this on, and I will cut it away. You can see underneath how the cover will now seal to the pipe. I'm going to take some of this leftover pipe material and make like an envelope flange. I don't know what you call it, but anyways, essentially this is going to slip down into this flange we're going to make. And then on the front, I might actually these are the two stator bolts right here. I might just put holes right here and run the stator bolts through and use those to hold this down. So I won't need to get into this very often. There's going to be a hole here for the glow plug. So if I have to, I can just use a driver through the lid to change the plug. That way I don't have to take this off. But anyways, this shouldn't, quote unquote, have to come off super often, but it'd be nice not to have to take the whole tailpipe off and do it while it's in the airplane versus remove everything, remove the tailpipe to get to something stupid and simple. So, I mean, obviously if there's something bigger going on, it's got to come out anyways. But anyways, that's where we're at. So once this is done, I'm going to make some little doubler pads around the flange area, and I'm going to drill holes and get this to where it's screwed in. That way it'll screw into the fan shroud and I won't have to worry about taping it or anything. Plus, fuel will leak, fuel will loosen the tape anyways. So there's a lot of liquids going on in here, even though there shouldn't be, but there will be. So anyways, I also need to maybe run a hole with a grommet right here to run the fuel line out of the side. And then I need to figure out how I'm going to run the push rod for the throttle linkage. I got to get that done. Once this is assembled to the shroud and this is finished, that means essentially the tailpipe is done and ready to go. You can see the pressure fitting for the tune pipe comes out right here with the hose. And so essentially this will be ready to bolt in the airplane and run as soon as I get these last few things done. Then it's just a matter of doing nose wheel steering, throttle servo, and I've actually already got a valve on a plate that's removable set up for my Kafir for the onboard mixture control. So I'm just going to Velcro that to the side wall somewhere where you can't see it probably, and or maybe on top of the duct or something. Actually, I'll probably put it on top of the duct. That way, if I have to adjust it, I can. But anyways, those are the last things remaining to get the airplane flying. I do have to run all the landing gear plumbing, but basically those are the last things left to do. So not a whole lot. Today is Friday afternoon. I just finished doing the 90mm conversion on this, and I should have been working on the Sabre, but we're going to an electric event in a few weeks, so that needed to get done first. But I'm kind of hoping this might be flyable by Monday, so we'll see. Like I said, the airplane itself all the flight controls are done. It's just the last power system things and the nose wheel steering and last, you know how it is. It all adds up at the end, but there's a pretty good chance this could fly on Monday. So that would be awesome. So anyways, let's get busy. Okay, so I've now created the flange. You can see it's like got a, this retains it and it seals it. I probably won't be able to do this one-handed, but well, maybe. Just slide this in here. It's gonna take some fiddling probably. Hold on, and voila. So now it's captured and sealed back here. Let's see if I can pick this thing up. I'm not gonna be able to see anything, but now you can see how the air will flow around the cylinder head, which is the most important part to keep cool. And yeah, I just was able to access the clamp for the tune pipe. So like I said, now I just need to drill a couple of holes. I will use the stator bolts, at least for the time being, to secure this down. And I could always use a couple of screws or something. But yeah, pretty simple and quite effective. Let's see if I can see it from the back side here. No, I can see is the hanger. There we go. I love cell phone cameras. Anyways, you see the carburetor. And yeah, it's my little aerodynamic tailpipe holder. And one step closer. So like I said, now I need to put doublers where I'm going to put screws through this, because this stuff will just tear. It's only one layer, it's super thin. So anyways, I'm going to get that done and move on to the next step. Alrighty, so we have the fan all screwed in. I do have a throttle linkage hooked up. It's got a locking ball link on it, spring-loaded ball link. It's pretty cool. Obviously, we got the hole made for the glow driver. Some guys say to put an expanding earplug in here after you start it to cover this hole up, because not that it's that big of a deal, but you're definitely going to be blowing some air out of here. You kind of see the push rod for the throttle. And there's the spring-loaded keeper there. So yeah. So now I got to set up throttle servo and all that stuff. So that's next. Okay, so one of the biggest challenges with these old glow ducted fan airplanes is packaging, and by that I mean equipment placement, especially in an F86. Because let's say like in an A4 or my BVM Maverick over there, it's a lot like a Viper. You have the whole forward fuselage you can put stuff in. And on an F86, you don't have that. So everything's got to go on the sides and the corners. So you can see it's my throttle servo. I had to put 2 small air tanks in it instead of one big one. There's the steering servo. The battery's going to go up here. The fan sits right here. The tailpipe is in here. The rudder and elevator servos are right there, and the pipe actually sits up higher. It's more like that. Speed brake servos are right there. I mean, the fuel tanks go right here. There's almost no spot in this airplane that is unused. So, and then you have to make sure it's CG, so it's going to be really close. I don't think I'm going to have to add any weight, but I think with a half a tank of fuel, it should be a little bit on the nose heavy side, so it'll land with a pretty neutral CG, I think. And as always, things are getting heavier. It's probably going to end up closer to 11 pounds than 10, which is unfortunate. I was really hoping to be at 9.5 pounds. A lot of that has to do with the landing gear and the brakes and everything else. You can do this with wire struts and plastic wheels and no speed brakes, and you know, but then you end up with kind of a lame airplane. that is light, but lame. So, and this duct isn't exactly light either. But anyways, it all fits, but I mean, just barely. Everything is snug. so, anyways, I did get the fan is all ready to go back installed. I did get the hole. This is the low end needle adjustment right there. I got a hole made for that. I got everything cleaned up. You can see my little, I don't even know where I got this, spring loaded keeper for the ball link. This is super cool. I actually had to steal a needle valve off of a different motor because the seal on the original one was just dried up, and I tried to, and then it was all smashed, squished, and so I took it off because it was turned to powder basically. I tried to find an O-ring to fit it, and I couldn't, but I did find the needle off of my OS46, which this is a 46 but not the same motor, and it had the same needle on it, so, and it had a fresh seal, so we're good to go there. I decided to screw on the upper lid, which is where those two little holes are, so now these bolts have washers and whatnot. Anyways, pretty sweet little unit. 46VX. This is OS's last ducted fan motor, so this has a lot of ducted fan innovations in it that came throughout the years. And this is for being a 46, this is a big motor compared to a K&B 40. It's way bigger and heavier, but makes quite a bit of power. For a 5-blade fan, it's perfect. And this motor was essentially made for 5-bladed fans. Anyways, I'm rambling. So now, throttle servo, steering servo's in. I just need to set up my air valve, run some lines, dig up some extensions, mount the receiver. Then I will final install the fan, and yeah, we'll be ready to put fuel in it at that point once I set up the radio. So potentially could be ready to fly by the end of today. And I guess we'll see if we go flying tomorrow or not. Okay, it's the next morning, obviously. So I'm trying to figure everything out. I have my this is the valve. This is the mixture control valve, and I just have it mounted to a plate. That way I can just Velcro it anywhere I need it, or have space for it. This is my throttle servo. Just trying to figure out the best spot for it. So it's going to be over here against the wall. And then I have a little wheel collar coupler here that I can undo if I need to take the fan out, which obviously I will. And then the tanks are just sitting there for right now, but I'm going to have just a little piece of Velcro at the front of them to hold them in place. That way I can just pop those out and take everything else apart. So I'm going to get this glued in real nice and probably take everything out, glue this in, do the steering servo, and then set up some new hoses on the tanks. And I forgot I need to locate and drill a hole through the body and the pipe to get into the low side needle for the carburetor. So if you want to make a low RPM mixture change, which you don't have to do very often, you just kind of set them fat and leave it. But if you want to be able to do that, you don't want to have to take this whole thing apart. So I need to do that. And obviously I knew this was coming back out anyways. And I may end up changing this setup. I might actually hog out the fiberglass where these bolts are, and that way these can fasten down to the shroud. And then, I mean, this will probably work, honestly, but I think I might do that and then run a safety wire across here or something. Then I'll just loosen these a little bit, run the safety wire, and then clamp them down. I don't know, just an idea I'm having. Might just hog them out and use a couple of screws to hold it in place. But anyways, that's where we're at. Let's take this back apart. Won't be the first time. Alrighty, so I just got the nose wheel steering set up. cable, obviously. Spectrum servo. This is a Freewing F14 wheel with bearings. A little heavy, but honestly I'm probably going to need the nose weight anyways, so might as well have super low resistance, because these things are a little underpowered, especially on takeoff, because you tend to run them on the rich side. For safety's sake on takeoff, having low rolling resistance is a nice feature. So anyways, it's got JP brakes on the main, so those also have bearings. So anyways, steering is done, throttle servo mount is glued in, and throttle servo is in. So I need to set up all the airline stuff. Probably gonna pull the fan back out. I gotta pull the pipe off of it anyways. I gotta do a couple little things, and then I'll do a final assembly on that. Obviously I gotta dig up some servo extensions and some Y harnesses and start setting up the radio stuff. And then just make a little removable thing, kind of like I like doing my landing gear valves on a plate like this that I can just Velcro somewhere. That way I can just pull them in and out if I need to work on them. Having them hard mounted is kind of a pain in the butt, and it's not necessary, so I need to make up a little plate for a retract servo and valve. I'll do that, plumb the lines. Like I said, once I finally install this, I mean, it's only 12 o'clock. I could see myself potentially doing an engine run today, and it could even be ready to fly as soon as tomorrow. Tomorrow is my birthday, so might be doing like a breakfast thing, so I don't know. Anyways, we'll see. I'm not gonna rush myself too hard, but I think Monday is a definite possibility for first flight, which is very exciting. I started this airplane 4 or 5 years ago, so it's been sitting. You've seen it hanging in the background in my garage for a lot of years. So definitely a cool project. This is my second jet hanger Sabre. If you missed the first couple of videos, I grew up around this stuff. My dad had a couple of jet hanger Sabres back in the 80s when I was a little kid, so definitely a nostalgia thing for me, but I just love F86s. I love glow ducted fans. A lot of people think I'm crazy. They think they sound annoying and they're terrible and all that stuff. I love the way they sound. I think glow ducted fan engines sound freaking awesome. Does it sound like a jet? Absolutely not. But does it sound cool? Yes, it does. And it's got a built-in smoke system, so that's kind of cool. Anyways, let's get back to work here. Okay, so changing gears here a little bit. I'm just running all my hoses. Got some extensions on the wing stuff. I had to create these little troughs right here to run the wires and hoses through into the body, because I can't cut through this because that's a structural piece, and the wheels, there is not much room again. And then this part of this unit has to go way up in here in the wing. There's wires in there. I'm gonna have to try and keep it from kinking, so I'm gonna have to like put a piece of tape to hold it in a loop. Yeah, this is another area where there's just not room for anything. So I did make a little retract valve plate. This valve came out of my Fabal Panther actually. I leak tested it, put some power steering lubricant in there, and good to go. Found a brand new Freewing servo, good enough for something like this. And then, in case you guys missed the other thing, this is the BVM in-flight mixture control. This was originally in my jet hanger Kafir, so this has been used before. And this actually has a needle valve built into the end of it, so you can adjust this to whatever you need it to be, and then use the movement of the valve to restrict the flow based on that. And I actually found my brake controller. I didn't know where it was. I'm missing one still because I bought two of these wheels and brakes at the same time. Anyways, so these are kind of just hot glued down, and the gear unit, I mean, like I said, there's no room for anything. once I run the hoses out of here, it's gonna be a mess. Anyways, let me get these gear mounted in here, and then I can button up the hoses and wires and whatnot. And then the wing will be ready to install, and then I can just focus on the fuselage. Okay, remember when I said things in this airplane were tight? What I meant was things in this airplane are really, really tight. So you can see how the hoses and the wires just barely fit between the skin and the retract unit. My little trough idea mostly works, and this is what I had to come up with in order to keep the hoses from kinking as you install it into the wing. So I have to zip tie this one and tape this one. I know it doesn't look pretty, but there's really no other way. It's so tight in here, if you just let it go in there loose, it'll just kink. So you got to kind of support it so it can hold this shape. Anyways, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. But this side's all done, it's ready to go, and just got to set up this side. Okay, finally. So I didn't think this was going to take that long, but I fought this one side for like an hour trying to get the gear installed without pinching the hoses inside the wing here. So it's all installed. I got everything set up here, so should be ready to switch back over to the fuselage and finish up the radio install on that. Alright guys, it is almost 11 o'clock at night, and I've been thrashing pretty much all day, but I think it's ready to go. So I'll give you guys a little rundown of the controls here. Full flaps. Speed brakes. We don't have a lot of rudder throw. That's all we can get out of it. And the gear are mostly working. And the brakes. Brakes are working. Let's see. The garage is a complete disaster. This is what happens when you thrash like this. Alright, so here's the throttle. The only thing I have left is the top hatch, but I'm leaving that off for now so I can adjust stuff if I need to. And then this is the in-flight mixture. So like I said, there's a secondary needle right here that I can turn to fine-tune everything. So I essentially have the main needle on the carburetor open way more than it needs to be, and this now becomes the primary form of fuel flow control. And I got these new hoses. These are the old tanks out of my Jahan Kafir. I'm just gonna unhook from here to fuel it. And yeah, CG is probably at the back of the limit with no fuel, which is fine with me because the recommended CG on these is pretty nose heavy. So it pretty much barely sits on the nose, which is how my last jet hanger Sabre was, and it flew awesome. So haven't weighed it, kind of don't want to know, because honestly it's probably like 12 pounds now. It's just all these wires and stuff just add way more weight than you think they do. I ended up putting an AS3X Plus receiver in it. I wasn't planning on that. I thought I had a standard 10 channel, but I did not. So I had to steal the 10 channel out of my X1, which has AS3X Plus. And so I have that set up. Hopefully it'll handle the vibrations all right. These smaller motors don't vibrate too bad. The big 91s definitely shake the crap out of the airplane. So we'll see. Tomorrow morning we're going to test run it, so we'll show you guys how that goes and maybe taxi it around a little bit and then fly it on Monday. So one last thing I forgot I had to do. I had to make a hole in the side of the fuselage so I could get in here and adjust the low end of the carburetor. That one isn't as affected as much by this as... So you have to be able to adjust this to keep it idling nicely. The main needle, like I said, is just kind of wide open right now. So it's got a brand new plug in it. I do have an remote receiver in the nose. And I got my little 2S pack for the brakes, 2200 2S Lifey. And remember when I said there was no room in this airplane? Those are the servos for the tails right there. It's just, there is just literally no room. Oh, I do have one more thing I gotta do. Forgot. I have to make a little plate to cover up this back section here. And you can see the internal controls for the elevator and the rudder. And tune pipe. This wood section right here has all been sealed with epoxy, so that's all fuel proofed. But yeah, jeez, what a day. But she's gonna run tomorrow and fly on Monday, hopefully. It's gonna be a long video, so we'll check in the morning after we get this thing fired up. Alright guys, it's running pretty good actually. Well, there you go. She's flying tomorrow. See you guys in the next one.